Welcome to the Amateur Esports League. How are you doing? My name is Piercing, and I'm here with Alien. Alien, how are you doing? I don't believe we've casted in a good while, so it's
It's
good to see you
been
again, man.
it's been a little over 400 days since the last time you and I probably casted together back in OCS. So it's been a long time in the making. Of course, the focus has been on AEL. It's running, and most importantly, season 3 Retribution. Tonight we've got Unreal Nightmare going up against Apex, and I've got to say, Piercing, it's going to be an exciting one. Two teams that want to start off right in season 3. We've already had 2 days worth of play days. We had Sunday that had a play day already introduced, and I'm just really excited to finally get things going and really see who really is the best.
Oh, 100%. This is the chance for every team to show what their colors and their stripes are. And speaking of, we can see just that, a little bit of the conference rankings, the standings, and see who's played and where their standing is right now, including their wins, their losses, and their points right now, with the top teams at the moment standing for US Army Esports, Corvus Core, Generation ESS, and Erinite Esports. Those are going to
Yeah,
be our top standing teams as of this time.
yeah. As of right now, no team has gone to overtime just yet after 2 days worth of season 3. Now, of course, for to be determined and overtake as well as Rakai and Orglis Goobers, it isn't over just yet. I mean, just one game, people slip up. I mean, Spain back in 2010 won the World Cup after losing their first game. It is still possible to achieve glory, but for U.S. Army Esports, the expectation is high. Representing their branch to representing, as well as being able to prove a point here in season 3. Corvus Corp, they played their game well. Generation, Aaron, I like you touched on as well. They started off their seasons off high. So
Oh, absolutely. Now, let's do a little quick gander at our head to head for tonight. As we've said before, it's going to be Apex versus Unreal Nightmare. Now, we don't have a whole lot of information because we're just getting off out the bat, but this is who we're going to be looking at for who's going to be heading into this matchup tonight. But let's take a look at the rosters and see who our players are going to be for tonight, starting off with Apex.
yeah, Apex is bringing in a very strong roster, a roster that is definitely going to try and showcase what they have to offer. Now, for both teams, at the end of the day, I really do believe that if they want to start off right, they want to get some of these columns going in the right direction. Of course, the round count, the win loss, as well as that ranking, those are probably the top 3 that everyone kind of wants, looks at. But when you take things down into context, right, the plants, the defensive wins and attacking wins, as well as the win percentage overall, I still do believe that those are statistics that is strong. And for Apex, once we showcase their roster, which tada, money, will, collab, Raz, and then of course a substitute that unfortunately, you know, they don't. It'll be Krem. So these 5 guys, they want to get Apex moving in the right direction. And I've got to say, not many names I recognize. Money might be the one that I recognize the most, just because that's the person that I've had the most interaction with so far. But as we go on to the other side, Unreal Nightmare, their starting 5 roster, I think, is a little more recognizable, at least for me. Yoki, Titans, Jewel, Yuji, and Flipper. This is a strong 5 roster, a roster that as teams are signing up, this team is one of the teams that I personally am kind of expecting them to go on a deep run.
Now, I do think that notability can kind of, obscure what the potential outcome is because we do see some, you know, underrated heavy hitters that kind of come into the fray slamming hard. So there's still a lot of uncertainty as far as what we can potentially expect. I mean, it's kind of hard to really call anything, but also too, one thing to also keep in mind that a lot of the teams that we have at the moment, they don't have enough experience in the sense of being formally listed on Wikipedia. So our information's limited. So I mean, we could absolutely see an absolute slam out, or it could be really tight, impossible to
Yeah,
know. But looking at those map bans, we've got Skyscraper, My Beauty, My Heart Is Broken, Off the Rip, banned by Apex, Border, Clubhouse, and Consulate. That's one of the classic 3 off the board, followed up with Bank and Layer. Chalet and
Yep.
Cafe, the last to go out. And we're going to be going to Nighthaven, folks. You see it a lot, you love it more. That's what we're going to.
It does not fail to amaze me that every time that I'm on cast, or at least the last time I was on cast, Nighthaven was played out. And of course, first cast back, Nighthaven also being played out. And I've got to say, this is one of those maps that has been released within the last 3 or 4 years, and has really
Right.
made itself into a staple map in the competitive scenes for Rainbow Six Siege. Of course, a lot of maps have already phased out. I think Oregon got phased out recently, on top of other maps. But at the end of the day, Nighthaven, as you had mentioned, is where we're going to be hosting this battleground between Apex and Unreal Nightmare. Piercing, how excited are we looking?
Honestly, I love to see Nighthaven just because it has the most volatility for compositions to shake up. I've already seen a few guides on some nasty plays. One of the first that I've witnessed was, double nitro, long arm, almost like spawn peak nitro kills. I don't know really how to explain it. It's not really like a spawn peak, more like a spawn nitro. But that was one of the first things I've seen, and the depths that those can go is disgusting. So I do always look forward to seeing Nighthaven just for this sheer opportunity to see what additional innovations teams can bring up. It's not just Pro League who can shake things up. I mean, we can see some really experimental stuff down at the lower levels. It's always possible, especially when, you don't feel that existential dread on your back.
Yeah, I think when it comes to maps like Nighthaven, and even I'll even include Lair in the rework consulate map. These are maps that have either changed the way that the game is meant to be played, especially with the addition of all these operators. But it's like you had mentioned, because of the fact that it's not a necessarily established map to where even pro players are still bringing in new innovations to these maps, it doesn't feel repetitive. It doesn't feel like you're holding top garage rafters in Clubhouse for the 1,767th time in the last 6 months. It still feels fresh. And I still do enjoy watching maps like Nighthaven, like Lair as well, that just always bringing something new. And like you said, you know, in tier three and tier four, a lot of these innovations can really come up, and eventually we'll see it in Pro League. It happened back in the day. They're not the heights of G2 and Penta, and it's even happening now.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of or I wouldn't say high stakes, but innovative kind of changes and high impact shakeups, they happen everywhere. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of which ones actually gain visibility as well as adoption. And so I think this is just the perfect playground. I mean, the familiarity is hitting the levels of what you would expect with, the Classic 3. Honestly, it's really coming close to becoming the Classic 4 because of how frequently this map shows up. I mean, it is
Hmm.
pretty much consistent, even regionally. NA, EU, both of those regions run Nighthaven quite extensively. So I genuinely think that this is starting to hit that classic territory, though it doesn't have that same rigidity. And I think that's
Hmm.
honestly what makes it so much more enjoyable is how much more flexibility you have to try to change things. It's not like everything is pretty much set in stone and you have minimal opportunities to deviate unless you're running something extremely cheeky.
I definitely do agree. I think Nighthaven has really come in and it brings some sort of like a more modern take to an old style of siege, close quarters, minimal, exterior protection. Like realistically, the top floor site, you only have that one initial breach. That's all the breaching you really have to do, unless you're pushing from the opposite side of the of the site. Most of the time, you have to take control of that rafters area to be able to access
Mm-hmm.
you know the sites as comfortably as possible to provide you with the best case scenario to attacking that floor. Now, on the other hand, go down to the basement. You get control of that exterior wall as an attacker, you can cut off serious angles from the defenders, and the defenders really have got to hope that the attackers aren't also roam clearing, because you take that top floor control along with that wall. As a defender, you just, like you said, you just got to hope and pray that a C4 lands and lands in a spot that takes out half the team.
Well, the problem too is if you can dive deep into that corner and go for that plant,
Mhm.
especially with someone holding exterior, there's not a lot you
Oh,
can
yeah.
do. But also too on that warehouse point, you don't even need to necessarily force warehouse. I mean, if you
Mhm.
force office side IT and you stack that hard, it's really
Yeah.
hard to fight that off, especially because you don't have a whole lot of roamers that can back you there. That's a long wraparound, takes a lot of time, and especially if teams
Hmm.
hit fast enough, as we know some of these teams have a strong reputation to do, even on defender-sided maps like Nighthaven, it's not going to matter. By the time roamers get there to fight back, it's already too late, and basically it's now you're attacking just to retake site. It can be
Yeah.
really risky. So again, it's like even the traditional rules, there's caveats, right? You
Hmm.
bring some bunker busters like Monty or Blackbeard over by electrical, and suddenly warehouse means nothing. Especially if
Uh,
you already have a strong foot presence in IT and you have the floor below it completely cleared out. It kind of
yeah.
just throws that assumption out the window.
I definitely do agree. I think with the reworks of certain operators, like you had mentioned, Blackbeard, Montaigne, it really has strengthened the attacking side. You include in the utility and even the addition of other operators. You compare it to the defensive side, yeah, they brought in some pretty interesting, pretty cool looking operators, but they don't bring enough punch. The the rework from Clash, for example, I personally like that rework. It made Clash semi viable, but with the state of the game as of right now, and such high pace that it can get at certain times, operators like Clash don't get to see the line of day. Blackbeard, with the utility he brings, the shield he's able to run in with, it's almost looking like Prime Blitz with an AR. That's realistically what it feels like you're running up against with new Blackbeard. And as a defensive side, you don't know what you can really do. Yeah, you can chuck a C4, but a C4, a lot of these players have been playing for as long as they have, they can counter it. And you know, Nighthaven is gonna bring up that sort of new feel with that classic take, and I really do hope that for both of these teams, when they play defensively, that they're able to showcase what they can do.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to get to see that in just a minute. Now, finally getting into the matchup. Though, I will say, though, one thing I am really curious to kind of see, because I've noticed this trend, right? Because you mentioned Clash. Clash can be extremely disruptive against Shields because they're already moving slow as dirt, right? You put a
Hmm.
Clash on top of that slow effect, they can't get anywhere meaningful. They can't run it down. There's no element of surprise, nothing. And the fact that it's remote makes it even worse. But so far, from band wise, we're going to be looking at a classic anti breach as well as anti electrical or breach denial. Cade and Ace both off the board, followed up with a Blackbeard and a Clash. Okay, so we're kind of mixing it now. A little bit of a mixed
Hmm.
bag. So much for
Yeah.
that Clash to slow down shields, but especially with the hatches now completely open to be torn apart, I think we're gonna see some pretty decent Blitz or Monty use, as you see Clab on a zombie too.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. And I think with the fact that I had mentioned Blackbeard and Clash before, now they're both banned. I really am interested to see how Jewel plans on utilizing Osa. Of course, with the repick
Attackers
phase,
need to
that
locate and
still is
defuse
viable
bombs.
throughout the drone phase up to I think the last 5 to 8 seconds. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Unreal Nightmare is willing to bring up to the board. As you can see, Deimo's already being swapped out. First Spur, Ash, one of them operators that, as much as she is a much of a classic, she does brings a limitation. And, the swaps is understandable as these attackers are identifying and locating this site. Defensively, though, nothing really to different Mira, a staple defender when she's available. Warden, of course, being able to kind of counter that smoke and flash play. Zami, Legion, one of my personal favorites, and Mute, of course, to be able to enable these sort of rotations to be made in a manner that is very feasible.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting how Unreal Nightmare switched off all shield options. I mean, they went from Aurora to Osa to Nirvana. All those options taken out. I mean, yeah, the Legion can definitely be kind of a pain, but you have to look at the secondary utility of Apex based off their operator compositions. And so far, there is not a single impact that they have. So all of those shields, unless you want to invest one of those precious nitros, they're gonna be a persistent problem. So there's not really a way to break them. Once you're blocked off, that's it. Like, you're not really gonna have a way to fight that off. But regardless, Unreal Nightmare didn't want to take the risk and pivoted off of it. So I do wonder how they're gonna maintain their staying power, as it does look like, at least so far, they're focusing on the office side of the walls.
Yeah, no, I think for Unreal Number, they're going to try and attack this sort of the way you would attack Coastline back in the old days. You want to run that buck, kind of do a ground level clear and then start wreaking havoc from above. If you're able to take these defenders off of these vital
Bomb
points,
located by
you could
attackers.
then combine yourself with the remaining attacking operators, and you can really do some damage. So right there, but crying with the first kill of the game as he takes out the buck. The mirror window might still be up. I'm not entirely sure. We would have to double check and make sure, but a big kill within the first 90 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're trying to use feed holes to disrupt positions, which is a strong power play that I do believe is often under leveraged, but that slapback from Crying certainly disrupts it, especially as you said, one of those objectives, disrupting the mirrors, didn't go out. But Nitro does go through, doesn't get a down or kill, but it does deal quite a bit of damage to Yoki, bringing her down to half HP. So Unreal Nightmare is not looking too hot. Key objectives still up, such as the mirror. They do finally get those walls open, but they're at a minute remaining, and there's still choke points, such as electrical, that have yet to be cleared, and those can be notoriously difficult. If you finally have those mirrors down, which does allow them to fight that off, but Yoki's going to take some serious damage from Raz, still holding down that office position. Legion ping, that's going to give away positioning, but Specs will be able to catch Crying down. That'll be a 1-for-1 in terms of blood. But now with 35 seconds, now the push has to begin. The cabby call going through, looking to try to find somebody to clear some kind of opening, as that's what Unreal Engine or Nightmare is looking for. They're waiting for some kind of opening, but Apex isn't really giving it to them. They're gonna have to try to force this, and we'll see that with Jewel throwing out the flashes, the walk up onto Pillar, that's the push, comes around, shuts down electrical, there's the plant, but the swing to stop the fuse takes out Pillar, that's big! 7 seconds left, one-on-one, has to go for the kill, looks for it, but can't connect the dots as Apex takes the first round.
Apex held down that side, so like you mentioned, the last 30 seconds of the round, but of course, Unreal Nightmare, 2 flashbangs taking out that Mew was a big entry point that Unreal Nightmare needed. Unfortunately, as that happened, Will with a berserking triple kill towards the end of that round before he concludes it for, I believe, in a 4K. And, I've got to say, as an attacker, waiting into the last 20 to 30 seconds, I understand it was meta back in 2022 when I was playing, but it's 2025, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to be able to attack these defensive holdings a lot faster than Unreal Nightmare. As soon as that buck died, they had no way in. They were unable to clear out that mirror. It took IQ's life almost for them to finally clear out that mirror. But the hold that Apex showcased in that first round, chef's kiss, as a guy who has always stood by the defensive side, was a masterclass, especially the way they're able to hold their positions, hold their ground, and just let Unreal Nightmare to put themselves in very questionable positions to try and get that execute going.
New feed active.
Well, and here's the thing that's kind of heartbreaking, though. Unreal Nightmare had the right answer for how to make that walk-in. That pillar was a blind spot for them. They didn't have anyone who could actively deny that walk-up. But rushing to plant, dicey business. I mean, you're talking a long-range rifle at CQB, and all it takes is one wraparound, like we saw there, to just rip everything apart, as Will successfully did. That's what you kind of have to be a little careful for. That pressure is great, but you also kind of need to pressure valve release just a little bit to allow for some kind of security to get that plant down. That just never came. So, I mean, it was very doable for both sides, but yeah, Apex just took a sorely needed initiative after losing control of electrical. That's what got them on top. But going into this round, now we're going to be seeing finally some basement action. So we'll see what they're going to be able to do as far as top down, because now at least vertical will come a bit cleaner, if not for the fact that Apex has more Nitro. But they do get a nice top clear, getting IT Pillar out of the way immediately. That's a big advantage for Unreal Engine, especially Unreal Nightmare. If I say Unreal Engine one more time, I'm going to lose it. But with Scopos down, their big thing is being unpredictable, able to flip-flop around positions. And now that edge is immediately gone. That stings util-wise.
Yeah, and I think for Flipper, that is a big way to kind of come back after losing that vertical battle with Mira in the previous round. But with 90 seconds already through in this second round, Unreal Nightmare still are droning this first floor prior to then shifting focus to basement, which, of course, as I say that, Flipper getting ready to open up that hatch. Vertical is still available, Crying, just waiting for an unlucky attacker to hop in through that window. but the clearance is definitely being done for Under Number as they are putting themselves into position for the execution. As we near that 60-second mark, once again, a mark that for Apex is where you want to be at. Oh, and Flipper, you almost were at a plot where you did not want to be at.
Yeah, I mean, the predictive movement was great. I mean, a lot of teams will heavily reverse their movement once they start going towards vertical, and that can create some predictability that allows them to well-timed nitros, but that's not happening. On top of that, Yoki will be able to take all money down as well. That's going to be a clean push that enables them to push over into basement, which is huge. Kebiko comes out, though the nitro certainly slows this down quite a bit. That's the rest of your vertical gone, but it doesn't matter. The damage is already done. Yoki's taking another. That's now Raz down, who just got a nitro, and the entry space has been established thanks to that trade that just went through. 26 seconds on the clock. Diffuser going down. The wall big damage. Chipping will slowly down. The flash going out. Gets a great, crazy tap onto Specs. Now putting it 1v2. Doable, but his position is known and predictable. Has to get some kind of dive in to try to shake up the whereabouts on his positioning, but there's still so many drones out, they're going to be able to track his positioning as long as the drone placement has been clean, and yeah, they'll be able to catch him out on a long angle.
Yeah, Under Number one coming into the second round, like you had mentioned, into the basement attack, and I've got to say, Apex had a strong setup there, but the roam and the way that it was cleared as quickly as they did, they weren't unable to hold off Unreal Nightmare's push. Flipper getting that entry kill onto that Roman defender. It just started. It began a catalyst. Truth be told, as that first domino piece fell, it just started to flow like water for Unreal Nightmare. They got a strong attacking win. Apex once again going to that basement side, seeing if they can kind of change some things up, a little bit more of a traditional lineup. Malusi, Bandit, Vigil. I think Vigil's gonna be the big operator for this round. Then of course, the Iceman and Valkyrie to close that out for the Apex defensive setup.
I don't know how I feel about Clab on Vigil though. I'm gonna have to disagree there a little bit, and here's why. The death on second floor by Pillar, that wasn't really so much of a util issue or even a drone work issue. They knew that there was gonna be somewhere second floor. It was a standard clear. But I've tried to force a lethal fight and just lost that 50-50. And when you have no one else supporting you, you gotta play for your life, no matter what operator you're on. I highly doubt Vigil is gonna make or break the difference. The only thing maybe, stole a little bit more time, but even more so on Vigil playstyle-wise, it's all about playing for your life. And at the very least, being unpredictable, and we're seeing still the same general positioning, at least starting off. Maybe we'll see a bit of a shakeup, maybe some rats hiding spots, but either way, especially now with Yuki or Yokai on the blitz, it's gonna be a lot harder to just try to, run around unspotted. That kind of goes out the window a little bit. Yeah. It's gonna be all about life.
I think the one thing that we do have to notate when it comes to playing with a Vigil is when on scanner, he's undetectable, or at least the radio waves on the drone you're able to see can kind of give you an idea if he's first, second, or if he's above you, on the same level, or below you. So it's the fact that it's forcing these attackers to slow things down. Now, of course, you've got the Blitz somewhat on his tail, kind of chasing around, kind of seeing if they can identify this roaming defender, but a big kill coming on. There you go. Vigil already cleaned up, and I've got to say, in a pace that was a lot faster than the round before. Flip, you've got to start picking things up, but like I mentioned before, big kill coming out from Flipper. He's kind of waking himself up into this series. I think it was Go to be not 100% sure, but 90 seconds to go. Apex once again in a 45 position.
That's what I was afraid of, folks. That's what I was kind of talking about. But we're seeing a little bit of that counter vertical pushback like we kind of saw in round one again. Will going to be able to take up Jewel. That's one off the board, but Will is critically low HP. I mean, we're talking a 22L LAR could down him at this point. Not looking too hot as far as health-wise, but again, like you said, because they've been much faster on the vertical this time around, they're already pushing basement with a minute remaining, and this time it's even worse. You got a Blitz now on your tail, spots one, and now diving deep, looking for the kill, goes too deep, might run into a cross. There's a lot of head holes, foot holes, lines of sights that can turn this tower real fast, but that smoke does kind of help to split up those lines of sights. That's one way to use smokes that we don't see enough, I would say, and that certainly helps to protect Yokai in being bold here, which creates disturbing space for Apex to manage.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. As 30 seconds is to go. Apex now down to just 1C4. Brian is going to be the catalyst for the defensive side, but for Unremembered, it seems to be slowing things down. A C4 flies out in hopes of getting the Maverick, and nothing lands on the Hibana, per se. And a big kill coming out from the Hibana. Blitz is running straight through. Brian dead in sight. 9 seconds left to go. The plane is going down by Flipper. And I've got to say, Apex is just shit out of luck. But no, 2 big kills coming out of Brain. For last time, Blitz with 1 kill. It's a 1v3 situation. Bandit unable to clean it up. And I've got to say, Blitz was able to just push in as soon as that first domino fell. Once again, Unreal Nightmare closing things out.
Yeah, I mean, Unreal Nightmare is looking real good here. I mean, the consistency. But you also have to think on the side of Apex, the decision making there was just a little bit weak. Because we're talking running back a site, but still keeping the same playstyle as far as roaming. But even worse yet, holding the same position, but with no extra backup. And Unreal Nightmare spotted that player, you know, the Vigil going off early, which all just immediately gave away, like, hey, we're going to be wasting time looking for this person. And who's the best answer to that problem? A shield. You can make face-to-face contacts with no consequences. And that's exactly what happened. How many times did Yokai spot Clab? Like 3 times before Clab was finally taken down thanks to Spec. And there was no consequence for just running straight into Vigil. That's kind of where, you know, if you're going to run it back, you got to at least change something up. Maybe a little bit extra backup or maybe an earlier fallback. But, I mean, it was kind of the same thing. What do you expect there? And, yeah, the Blitz just makes that even worse. Because you saw a lot of the same playstyle-wise. You can't really do that against the Blitz. You're just going to blaze through whatever your choke point is, which will have been identified.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the best way to, you know, sort of personify what Cleb has kind of gone through for 2 rounds now is almost a hurting motion. They hurt the way that that Unreal Number is clearing out these roamers is hurting them to a line of sight that may not be accounted for as the defender is kind of falling back. You don't necessarily want to get, they're not necessarily setting up cross points in areas in which the roamer is able to, you know, kind of figure it out. They're putting in points in which Kleb will have this false sense of security, think he's gotten away, and then bam, Ed gone out for the round. It's happened to him, I believe, 3 times round. 3 times round. Every round, he's falling into sort of the same trap. I've got to say, for Apex, they might want to reel him back a little if they want to get a better hold into this round. I mean, this match. First round was great, but the following 2 has been all Unreal Nightmare.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of makes me nervous here is how they're rotating the same 2 sites. So far, we haven't seen first floor. Though, to be fair, Apex has won this site the one time they have played it, but it still doesn't really help narrative-wise. Especially if this site falls, that's deep trouble. That suggests potentially some level of hesitancy to play on the first floor. So, we'll see how convincing they can run this out, but if even they're losing second floor command center, that's going to spell big trouble. But we are going to see that Unreal Nightmare will choose to go from that office side push again. But already, a big setback as Ibana is going to be taken out. That's Jewel eliminated by All Money. That's going to be 1 player off the board, an immediate disadvantage. And we're talking just right on the outskirts of sight, but barely any tangible setup at this point.
Yeah, no, and I think for Unreal Nightmare, that's a big hit, big fall as well as that's the distance hard breach. Ibana being able to throw her pallets from a distance, being able to detonate and open up these reinforced walls and opening up these line of sights for the attackers is a detriment. And with 50 seconds left to go, Apex being able to sit all pretty, it's all looking good, but All Money falls into the wayside. Crying gets 1, but he gets instantly revived by Specs. 40 seconds left to go. Unreal Nightmare finally picking up the pace, knowing that there's a player on the opposite side of the thermite. Kleb gets 1. The wing comes out, but he's getting Azamid, and I've got to say, it's not looking good. A shotgun comes out from Raz, a 1v3, making a 0v3. Will once again coming up big for Apex in this connector side. I've got to say, what a response.
I mean, yeah, Apex absolutely deserved that round, and because they play around these choke points so cleanly, that's where Unreal Nightmare doesn't really have a good way to push through that. We've seen them attempt to try to do a breakthrough on those points multiple times, but often they're unsuccessful. And the most success we've seen on that was in basement when there's a blitz. But guess what? Bans have gone through, and blitz is out of the equation. You don't even get that option anymore. And if you're going to push through that, you want some kind of shield. And at this point, the only real option is going to be a Monty, which means that you're not going to have a real gun to work with you. I mean, sure, you can pull the shield up, but it's delayed. It gives a major pushback opportunity. So that's where things can kind of get dicey if you need all hands on deck gun-wise. I mean, without that element of surprise, which is hard to do from an offensive push, it's going to be tricky. But looking into this next round, we're finally going to see some first floor play, and we're going to see on the side of Apex if it was hesitancy or if it was confidence on command center. We'll find out in just a moment.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree, but I do want to touch back on the shield play. Fontaine, like you had mentioned, he's an available operator, but there's also a Russian operator that they could utilize. And in my personal opinion, mostly because Fuse is one of my favorite operators, bringing Fuse with the setup that Apex has and the floor that they're in could be, round changing almost. Now, of course, with the fact that the round has already started, there's no possibility of Unreal Nightmare to kind of swap out and bring in a Fuse, but it is food for thought. Being able to kind of go take control of that vertical from above, being able to clear out that roam and then proceed to utilize the Fuse to clear out these choke points is going to be big. But time, you're playing a little too close to fire, buddy. You're down to a kiss and goodbye, and it's not looking good, but a strong start by Apex though.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's nice to be able to get some major chip damage on that because again, feet holes, head height holes, what have you, a little bit of counter vertical. All it takes is that little pink from a 22 and you're out. I mean, really any caliber will be able to do them in at this point. That's where it starts to sting. And again, the choke point struggle, it's showing. There's more backup on the side of Apex towards second floor, and we are seeing no tangible progress from Unreal Nightmare other than having IT wall open, having one in electrical. There's no major breakthrough. I mean, the difference in support is night and day, honestly. And it's putting a strain on Unreal Nightmare. They want to get that vertical, but they're not getting any openings. But perhaps this wall to pillar could shake that up. Crime's already down.
Ooh.
That's Clav also down, but we're going to see the shotgun from below. Egoist Flipper will be eliminated thanks to Raz. Take that out, but it's 3-3. A shot across the hall is gonna ring true. All money also going down, and now it's up to Will. A sudden collapse as Unreal Nightmare spots positive ID, gets to go ahead and engage, and boy, do they engage. Nitro goes flying, doesn't connect, but does finally get that pushback on Titans. That's now going to put it to a 1v2. And so far, Jules still above. 40 seconds, still plenty of time. No Nitro in hand, but it's a matter of getting just deep enough to plant. And so far, with such low HP, it's a genuine vulnerability. One bullet is going to be forced to try to engage a fight. Now we're going to see Will take an initiative, trying to walk up. The plant sound goes off. They know they're trying to go for it, but cornered and stuck. We're going to see that window shot ring true. And with that, we'll see Unreal Nightmare start retaking rounds, regaining the lead.
Yeah, and I think for Unreal Nightmare going into this into the 6th round prior to the swap, going up 3-2 is absolutely huge for a map like Nighthaven, and the more defensively set map. But Will really brought that back, taking these one-on-one gunfights, but it came down to picking and choosing who he wanted to go after, especially with that phantom wall, so to say, kind of blocking his his peripheral. He had to make a decision. Beautiful window shot coming in from one of the 2 remaining players of Unreal Nightmare. But I've got to say, it's like For Unreal Nightmare and even Apex, they're hoping on miracle plays, as I like to call it. Back in round 1, you had mentioned that Apex won that top 4 side. They didn't necessarily win it comfortably. They had to rely on Will to go absolutely berserk in the midst of an unreal, execution. Round 2 and 3 were a lot more concrete coming out from Unreal Nightmare before Apex brought it back, to even Stevens. But even then, I believe that round was another miracle play from the player. Unreal Nightmare, I think so far across these 5 rounds, have shown a level of consistency when it comes to their executions in a manner that Apex is really just kind of hoping and praying that somebody lands a big kill and it catapults into a victory. It almost did this previous round, but for this 6th round, I really hope that Apex is able to bring something that can at least bring this into an even playing field before they go into the attacking side.
Oh, 100%. It's all dominoes when it comes to the side of Unreal Nightmare. But the thing that I kind of get worried about is, Apex doesn't really have the option to go second floor again, so they went first floor. There's a very real possibility, folks, that Unreal Nightmare could pull this 4-2 unless Apex can just absolutely choke out Unreal Nightmare on the second floor. But if they don't, however, and they lose that, we're talking defender-sided swap with 4 on attack. That's a harsh look. You know what I mean? That's kind of hard to to recover from just pure probability.
Oh!
And already, that's a rough start, sprinting right into Raz's loving arms. You gotta be ready for that. There's no one covering electrical. Ew. Stings a little. Nitro down 1 of 2, by the way. But a bold pushback from Clav into electrical managed to take 1. But a prompt refrag from Jewel will shut that down. There's only 1 remaining, 1 close. Goes for the slow walk in, takes that. But we do see Cryin try to recover a little bit of the damage, capitalizing over by Waterfall, bringing it 2 and 3. But still, this is the hallmark of what lost them last time. It's not looking too hot right now.
Yeah, well, I definitely do agree with that. With 70 seconds left to go, I think the 2 players that remaining for Apex is definitely where they want to kind of be. Will being the star player as of right now, he's gonna have to pull something out of nothing. And Cryin, he's got to hold it down. But what a shot coming out from Dians. Out from Rafter Staircase, 50 seconds left. Will, once again, in no man's land. He's got to retake the site. But a beautiful swing. Specs cleaned it up. Unreal Nightmare. 4-2 coming into the half as an attacking side. Going that strong and that well in a map like Night Haven, I've got to say Apex has got a lot to do if they want to bring this back.
Yeah, if you're Apex, that has definitely got to sting. Not only just the fact that it's 4 or 2-4 and you're now attacking, but just the sheer fact that they played so convincingly around command center. They are so strong on holding chokes, but when it's not the site and it's just a power position, man, they struggle on key controls. They can't do it. Every time we saw second floor collapse, whether it was basement, first floor, didn't matter. If it wasn't site itself, they just could not manage it. And that definitely kind of makes for a bad track going into the second half. But yeah, you got to give props to Unreal Nightmare, though. Despite their struggles on choke points, especially tight corners, they still had very strong cross potential, which is going to benefit them greatly going into defense, because that's what it's all about, is crossfires and initiatives, and they thrive on that. Again, that domino effect. They're always out for blood on that first, and then they just clamp down, and it's so hard for Apex to pick back up after that point. So I truly wonder how they're going to do the same on attack if they can.
It'll be a tall task, honestly. I think this 7th round going into it, Apex has got to come in with the mentality it's do or die, effectively. They're attacking. Unreal Nightmares have been absolutely game so far. Their 4-round wins have all been, for the most part, clinical. Apex, like I mentioned before, it's come down to a miracle play. And more often than not, it's come down to Will. Will is going to be the catalyst, is going to be the player to watch for Apex in these upcoming rounds. It'll be as short as the next 3. It'll be as long as the next 6. no one really knows right now because no one else is really clocked in for Apex.
I do see that it's interesting, though, that we do see Unreal Nightmare finally bringing that clash on the side of Yokai. Well, that makes it kind of obvious who the shield player is for them, if it wasn't already. But the fact that Apex doesn't bring any kind of shield operators, we'll see which way they kind of push from this, because they're basically gonna need warehouse if you're dealing with an operator like that. Otherwise, those choke points are gonna be dang near unplayable. We'll see a little bit of bandit tricking. Tries to catch one of the sides, does, but can't fully stop the IT wall, which will get open despite no presence down below.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. And I think while we take this few moments before the actual, action sort of starts, let's talk about the bans a little. I think these are very understandable bans. Maverick,
I'm not done with you.
As clear as day. Flash, holding down the ground. EMP goes off. But my big one is Mira being taken out as early as it is. I think Apex are definitely playing defensively with their bans, with the fact that they just took out one of the strongest defenders in Nighthaven. But Kaid as well. I'm not a big fan of the Kaid ban, not gonna lie, but I understand it. Either way, Unreal Nightmare is still holding it down with 90 seconds left to go. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but that certainly kind of disrupts it. Will, kind of the trailblazer thus far, able to take Egoist. That's 1 of 2 Nitrous off the board. That's going to hurt just a little bit. And we're going to see the Zofia crying, trying to disrupt Yoki, who's already down to half HP with a minute remaining. There's plenty of time to try to make a move. But that late setup could open some opportunities for some pushback, and we'll see just that as Specs will be able to catch Collab out from warehouse towards IT. Could that be the blood they need to start getting active? Possibly, as we're already seeing Titans throwing out those smoke canisters. That's 2 off the board. That means in 30 seconds, there's still 1 more that they deal with. Now, those smokes can be a bit too early because now you can't really create a one-way line of sight, but either way, Spike the Flash tries to dive, but that shotty is gonna shut that down. Not having it, having a second. You want 3? Titans looking for it, looking to throw another. Already gets a little bit of a shotgun blast onto Crine. Boys, that buckshot rings and it devastates. Raz manages to take Yoki though. It's gonna be a 3v3, tries to walk in, but a clean shot from Specs is gonna shut that down. And another onto Raz, as Unreal Nightmare is looking to sweep this out on the second half.
It almost feels like Clash from the grave left a final present, a final gift for his remaining player, Azami, and like you had mentioned, Specs holding it down, but the shotgun ringing supreme for I felt like an eternity. It felt like an eternity that Apex was just knocking at that door, but they just could not get through. The English shotgun, the shotgun from the other side of the pond, holding down the site 10 years later, I've got to say, it brings back so many memories. What a way for Unreal Nightmare to just make an absolute statement against that attack from Apex, and realistically puts them on a straight shot to victory.
Oh, 100%. But there's also kind of a tactical misstep there to think about too. We kind of talked about how Clash was going to make that push near impossible, and that's exactly what happened. So the question then becomes, if you're going to have a Clash that provides cover, slows you down, and we saw just the consequences of that. We saw one of the players from Apex just trying to push through from off the side into pillar and just gets absolutely smoked with a shotty by Titans. If you're going to deal with that, wouldn't you want to be on the back end of Clash with Warehouse? We didn't see that though.
My thing is this. Where was the vertical presence? The vertical presence realistically could have nullified that Clash. If it was identified during the drone phase, why was no one going, oh, let's bring the buck and let's force this Clash out of their shield? If the Clash went unidentified in drone phase, in a sense, it could be questionable droning coming out from Apex. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm not trying to talk down. It's just something that it should have been pointed out. It should have been known, especially if you were on the receiving end of vertical play. Why not attempt a vertical play yourself? it felt like it was almost a misread from a round. And realistically, that small little change could have really changed the outcome as a whole for Apex.
Interestingly, though, we do see that Unreal Nightmare does have some extra backup onto second floor, so that should give them a little bit of a better chance of holding it. But that does also signal to me that they're going to be holding it kind of to the death. But again, Apex doesn't have any shields, so there is that viability. But that's going to put a sting on that immediately. One down, a trade going back to back. We're going to see Jewel able to pick up two. Brian and Will, that's a heavy hitter off the board. Big loss. And so now you have to revel in the fact that you still have somebody above, and yeah, you just got absolutely devastated. That's map control out. That's a player disadvantage. Yeah, that's gotta suck. I mean, the cutoff on Waterfall was wonderful to see, but I mean, for the cost, especially with a minute remaining, can't feel too good, as they still haven't even begun vertical yet. They do have a ram, though, which allows for a rapid vertical, but... Oh my gosh, never mind. I was going to say that Nitro could have been nasty, but it still went through. I thought I was going to miss. Nope, didn't matter. Glad will be able to pick up one, despite to try to make the best of a bad situation. But either way, once Unreal Nightmare finds one, they smell blood in the water, and like sharks, they encircle and they snap. And boy, do they snap hard onto Apex. 30 seconds now remaining. You're going to have to run this down practically blind. I mean, look at this. There are no drones remaining for Clab to work with here. She has basically nothing here, and 17 seconds on the clock. As long as Unreal Nightmare doesn't play too passive and allow for ones to isolate, flashing yourself, not a good start. There's really not a lot that Clab can really do here. Still has Diffuser in hand, so there is kind of that, maybe especially going for that corner plant, with such little time, it's gonna be dicey. He looks for one close by, but can't find the one. Ratting prone in the corner.
The Apex Predator. Historically speaking, the Apex Predator is able to kind of hunt their prey and become the absolute dominant force in the jungle until they come across an unbelievable night. Jewel with the initial double pick, an instant refrag. It really just came crumbling faster than a meteor hit Earth millions of years ago. The Apex is that dinosaur that got hit by the meteor in Pangea. Just saying. Unreal Nightmare has played an absolute stunning game. An absolutely stunning game.
Yeah, they have been absolutely on a hunt. I mean, the numbers don't lie. We're at match point. I mean, at lightning fast speed. Unreal Nightmare doesn't play around when it comes to Nighthaven, and it clearly shows. This is gonna be Apex's last chance, but here's where there's possibly a fighting chance for Apex. We're seeing Egoist running Clash on a first floor site. Gonna be honest, if second floor collapses, that's gonna be a hard sell to bring an operator like that. I mean, it can potentially work, especially if you're holding it second floor, but you know, that caster's curse. But if they cannot hold second floor, Clash has to back off. I mean, you're talking diminishing returns, and Apex can absolutely punish. But either way, they're on a lifeline. Though, Crying on Nomad could possibly help with that, just to kind of control the fire a little bit, just try to snuff it out.
Yeah, I mean, 30 seconds already off the board. Drone work is coming out from Apex, and, you know, they're taking it slow. Understandably so. Oh! Specs, on the other hand, is going straight into then following around if it ever comes through, but a big kill coming out. Thatcher, though, off the board, and I've got to say, Jewel is just absolutely having a second half. C4 flies out. Can it land? Big hit does not. Fallback does come through. Spawns are coming out. Minimal damage coming out. Brian. Oh my god! Yuki with the double gets cleaned up by Clem. Battalions answering right back, and Raz, about as fast as that entry point got absolutely decimated. He's in the middle of sight. 1v3 situation coming out. His way comes through, but Jewel cleans it up. Unreal Nightmare, about as fast as they come. 7-2 final score. Apex, they showed up for 2 rounds. They They showed up. They gave him a fight. But Unreal Nightmare, it's in their name. They were a nightmare to play. They're a nightmare to play against. They were just absolutely unreal. A flank from bottom stairs killed that whole attack. Killed whatever dreams Apex had. Applaud, but a 7-2, respectfully, a 7-2 demolition. And
Yeah,
like that's the most respectful way you could put it. It really is.
I mean, you can put it nicely, you can put it bluntly, but you guys know how I am. I'm gonna put it bluntly. That was a blowout. Holy moly, what a pushback. Again, domino effect, but in the most violent iteration you could possibly have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, what's that old saying? Give them an inch, you give them a mile. Except instead of a mile, we're talking, what, a whole continent worth of miles? Goodness gracious, what a pushback. But I mean, it just goes to show that this was, by and far, Unreal Nightmares territory. I mean, they are the ones that ultimately ended up picking that map, but who could have seen it going out in such a blaze of glory? My goodness.
I'll be honest.
I mean, that was just truly devastating.
After the first round, the way that they just fell into the hands of Will, I genuinely thought that Apex was just gonna fly. They were just gonna take control of that map. They were just gonna, go. They were gonna go win comfortably. Maybe a little bit of a closer match. What proceeded afterwards was 7 out of 8 rounds in which they were able to actually give Unreal Nightmare a fight. Unreal Nightmare took that one round and said, y'all had us in the first half. Here's 7 for your mistakes. Realistically, they gave him 7 for their mistakes. It was minimal mistakes coming out from Apex. The way they were roaming, not enough coverage. The way they were pushing, not enough coverage. The way that it became one-dimensional defensively and offensively, it's, respectfully, it's like, I'm not trying to, like I said, not trying to beat them down. They gave Unreal Nightmare a fight in some of these rounds. But Unreal Nightmare, time and time again, handled the business. They made sure they did the basics, and they allowed Apex to just make their own mistakes. At the end of the day, Apex made minute mistakes that opened the door for Unreal Nightmare to come into sight, or open a door for Unreal Nightmare to just absolutely push their way through, steamroll them around. Or they gave, like you said, they gave them an inch and they just took a whole mile and a half. Like, Unreal Nightmare played that well. And I think for Apex, they've got a lot that they can learn from this matchup.
Oh, yeah. But I do think there is kind of a really important lesson that can be gathered from here, that not just for this match, but I think overall, I don't know if you kind of noticed it, Alien. I kind of am seeing a repeat pattern where the team who has a better containment protocol, as far as, being multi-fronted and also just kind of containing defender or attacker behavior, usually is the one that is able to dominate. Because at the end of the day, what we saw was a breach in containment every time for Apex. I mean, whether it was realm pushback or, whether it was an opening that they just could not compensate for. One of the things that I see as a cornerstone for pretty much all competitive teams, especially for this league going forward, is that one problem. How do you contain the unpredictability that Siege can bring to you? And some of these, kind of pub stompers are capable of bringing forth. How do you manage that? And honestly, it comes down to adaptability, trusting in your utility, drone work, whatever it has to be. But I think really it comes down to containment, because the teams that are able to get away with the most without getting consistently punished, those are the teams that you're going to see dominating. And even when Apex did punish, overall, just general control of flow, they didn't have it over, Unreal Nightmare. They could not really kind of box them in. There was no oppressive force. And that also kind of comes down to other concepts like, phantom pressure. If a team don't feel phantom pressure, you're going to have a lot of trouble maintain control. Because obviously you can't be everywhere on the map. So having that psychological pressure is big, but if you're going one-fronted, they already know exactly where they can pivot. And I'm sorry, but being one-fronted gives a lot of space that you cannot afford an enemy team to have, regardless of whether you're on defense or attack.
No, and I think another big thing that I'm realizing a lot with these teams is that they don't utilize timeouts. Back in
That's
my
good,
day,
yeah.
you're down 2-3. You're in the final round of a half. Utilize that timeout, especially if you're not necessarily convincingly winning these rounds. Utilize the timeout. Sort of
100%.
ice the kicker or ice the team, and let's bring it back. Let's make this closer, and let's bring that second half of everything we got. They didn't do that. They didn't try to slow things down. I think at the end of the day, it's like you said, they weren't able to contain that randomness. They weren't able to contain the fluidity of Unreal Nightmare. And I think for Apex, like I said, they've got a lot to learn, or not necessarily a lot to learn, but a lot that they can take away from this first matchup of season 3. But for Unreal Nightmare, they're the phenomenal winners. They won it comfortably 7-2. Piercing, any final remarks before we head out?
No. I guess just one small one. If that is anything to show for the rest of the season, keep an eye out for Unreal Nightmare. I know you kind of mentioned Alien, how you kind of recognize a lot of the players, and I kind of put it down like, well, maybe we'll see something kind of crazy coming out from Apex, but I think the recognizable names is playing a lot to it, and we really are kind of seeing an all-star brawler roster potentially on the rise here. So I would definitely say, because obviously I cast a bunch of different teams and games and whatnot, but the style in which they went about it, especially their recoveries, were so clean. They have a strong ability to, kind of build momentum. And that's something that a lot of teams, even all the way up to T3 and a bit of T2 struggle with. Building momentum off their attack, that's hard to grasp at. And any team that is consistently able to do that, even after pushback, like we kind of saw with struggles on, like choke points, like electrical, didn't matter. Unreal Nightmare, they took one and then they took 3, 4, 5, 4 more. You know what I mean? So I genuinely think this is a team that you should be keeping a very close eye on. But other than that, that's all I got.
No, I definitely do agree, and I think moving on forwards, like you mentioned, Unreal Nightmare is the team to look out of. But much like Apex, they weren't unable to take as much time away from you, so we're not going to take any more time away from you either. My name is Alien. This is Piercing. Major shout out to Unnamed Gamer. Hello, as always, thank you, brother, for the opportunity. You guys have a wonderful night. God bless, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.
Retribution! Retribution!
We were forged beneath the fire, names erased but never tarred. From defeat we carve our fate. Retribution will not wait.
Silent shadows, voices loud. No more silence, hear us now. Raise the banners, seal the breach. We reclaim what lies in AEL, rise again. From the ashes forged in flame, glory carved into our name.
Fallen friends and shattered ground echoes through reach round and round, tears to steel and fear to flame. We return to stake our claim.